Hello, this video was recorded during our event Engaging Citizens and Civil Society in Interreg, held online on the 11th of March 2022. In this video, you will listen from Sofie VAN OVERSCHELDE, representative from Interreg Flanders Netherlands program. Why did they participate at the DG Regio and OECD pilot project? What was their experience? And you will learn also about what their next steps will be.
So first of all, thank you at Interact for inviting me for sharing our experience today within the OECD process. So first of all, I want to explain to you why we applied in this process. So maybe if you can give me the next slide, Nika, thank you. So Interreg Flanders, the Netherlands, is a program about innovation on a technological and sustainable level, within which we want to tackle societal challenges. However, we do realize that also in other areas, such as decision making, it is essential to always strive for the maximum alignment and keep up with the social needs of our society. So we firmly believe, as a program, that citizen participation will help us realize that goal. In that way, it is a form of social and democratic innovation within our program. So next slide, please. Yes, thank you. So next on, we are a program for citizens, but unfortunately, we notice just too often that citizens are not familiar with Interreg, or even broader, with what Europe is achieving at a more local level. So since citizen participation is given a more central place in our program, our projects are additionally more supported by the citizen. So this initiative will also make it more visible for citizens that Interreg projects are also being set up for them, for their well-being and for their benefits. Moreover, we had already involved civil society in our previous fifth program. So the group of so-called Article 8 members had an advisory function in our decision-making process. However, we wanted to include them more in our next program, in our sixth programs, our current program. That's why we've already actively included the group during the preparations for our sixth program. So they had a chance to express their needs and expectations during the drafting of the new program, and these were taken into account. So this promising cooperation led to them receiving a full decision-making power, and on the other hand, the positive experience also led us to commit ourselves to the OECD pilot. So next slide, please. Among them are representatives of the Social and Economic Council of Flanders, the Association of Dutch Municipalities, the Human Rights Board, and the Dutch Environmental Federations. So since their inputs turned out to have a real added value for our program in Interreg 5, their position is even strengthened in Interreg 6. So their advisory role is expanded with the decision-making powers, since they will be receiving voting rights in the decision-making process about our projects. Also not unimportant is the fact that this group is not only gaining more power, but also has grown in size. So for example, universities and other players in the educational and world science were added. In addition, there is also the intention to involve the Article 8 partners, Article 8 members in more areas throughout our program, such as communication. So this means that joint initiatives will be set up. A first example of which already has taken place in September, because in collaboration with the umbrella organizations for cities and municipalities, being the VVSG and the VNG, we have set up an information sessions specifically for local governments. And next slide, please. The next reason why we want to enhance citizen participation is because within our previous program, we also included a number of projects that already spontaneously incorporated citizen participation. For example, there is Zuivere Lucht, which is translated into Pure Air project. A toolkit was developed here to support citizens, schools, and organizations to devise and implement measures themselves to improve the air quality in and around the school or organization, or to reduce exposure to polluted air, which is a good example of citizen science. Next slide, please. There is also the Grenspark Groot Saftingen project, which in addition to the investment in biodiversity in the nature park itself, the partners have also been working on setting up an organizational structure for the park to manage it. To do this, they started working with local citizens, farmers, companies, and administrators in the area who could all provide input in the process. So next slide, please. So the outcome of our OECD triact process, so next slide, please, is first of all the citizen participation playbook, which is mainly of which the OECD, including JEVA, was responsible for the development of, with support from our own program. So the Citizen Participation Playbook is a tool for Interreg Flanders, the Netherlands project partners to help identify opportunities and plan for citizen participation in designing, implementing, and evaluating projects. So concretely, it helps them to identify whether and when citizen participation is useful, the order in which a participation process should be designed, considerations to ensure quality and follow-up, and a variety of different methods and tools that can be used depending on the purpose and context of the projects. So the playbook is divided into 4 major parts, for which the first general part aims to help the reader understand what is citizen participation and what are its key benefits. It then guides the reader through questions that helps them to identify potential opportunities for citizen participation in the project and decide whether to pursue them. Part 2 aims to help the reader identify where in the scope of their projects citizen can be involved, which problems the citizen could help to solve. It presents various methods that can be used to involve citizens and offers guidance on how to choose the right one. Part 3 aims to introduce principles that help ensure the quality of citizen participation. The reader should use this principle, the projects should use these principles to help shape their citizen participation activities. But on the other hand, the Joint Secretariat will also use these to ensure that participation activities are organized, that are being organized by our projects are inclusive, transparent, meaningful, etc. Then the fourth and the last part contains some useful resources and links. Then there is a second initiative. Next slide, please. So in addition to the introduction of the playbook, the function of participation advisor was also created within our program. So this position is fulfilled by myself, which I take on simultaneously with or as part of my task as a project advisor. The process works as follows. So the first call for proposals of our new program was recently launched. So in concrete terms, it means that as we speak, projects are busy writing proposals in order to submit them and ultimately realize them within our program. So these potential projects are supported ad hoc by our team of 10 project advisors, of which I am also a part of. When supervising them or guiding them, we encourage the potential projects to incorporate a citizen participatory element where appropriate. So if opportunities for citizen participation are identified during one of these counseling conversations, I come to the scene. I advise the project partner on their participation process. However, its implementation within the project still remains with the projects themselves. So the first call for proposals closes at the end of March, and from that moment on, we start working on the submitted projects. Projects that incorporate citizen participation have an advantage in the evaluation and, if possible, have a better chance, but I have to say this cautiously, for effective selection and implementation. So at the moment, no concrete projects have been selected yet, so I can't give concrete examples. However, we are seeing an increased number of initiative and ideas in which citizens are being involved. These range from citizen science. There is, for example, a project where primary school students will be, or the plan is that those students will be collecting microplastics from local rivers, to bringing local residents together during area development, to organizing hackathons among students to provide answers to concrete issues that arise in the sector of energy transition. So after selection, I will also be ready for these projects to actively think along during the implementation about how to realize citizen participation. But again, the implementation itself still remains with the projects themselves. So in short, I function as a citizen participation point of contact for our entire program in all things mattering citizen participation, in all stages going from preparation to selection to implementation. Then next slide, please. As a third initiative, which is a bit of a smaller initiative. Next slide, please. We have a major launching event in September, and we are also planning on organizing several citizen participation workshops during the event. And the concrete form and contact of this has still yet to be determined. So, and then on the long term, as also a bit explained by Eva, and as I also mentioned during an earlier part of this event, so on the long term, we are willing to explore the option for a pilot of a citizens panel. So the panel's responsibility would be deciding on which small projects within the small project fund should be funded in response to the call for proposals on this particular issue. But the idea is to learn from this pilot panel how to better design future citizens panels that will be established for each call for proposing for cross-border studies and cross-border projects during our 7-year programming period. However, as mentioned earlier, we must admit that the road to this pilot has not been an easy one. So the program partners were initially, or still are, enthusiastic to install this panel, but as concrete steps towards establishment have to be realized, we are noticing some stumbling blocks. It is certainly not due to the lack of goodwill within the monitoring committee, but we notice on the other hand that in this phase, the decision makers, the monitoring committee, are stuck with questions about citizen expectations and the possibility of not being able to fulfill them. But in any case, whatever the outcome will be, this remains a story for Interreg Flanders and Netherlands, our joint secretary, to rally behind. So certainly to be continued. And with that hopeful message, I will end my presentation and thank you for your attention.